There comes a moment, quiet and unannounced, when a person stands at the edge of their life and senses that something precious has been slipping away. Not time alone, but themselves. The dreams once vivid have faded. The passions once burning are now quiet embers. And we wonder, where did I go? The truth is, many live not their own lives, but the lives others expect of them. Distracted, fragmented, and consumed by noise. But life is not a rehearsal. It is happening now. And unless you turn inward, unless you begin to truly focus on yourself, your soul will remain a stranger to you. This is not selfishness, it is responsibility. You were born once, you will die once. Between these two absolutes lies your one chance to become who you truly are. Let us now explore 5 key truths that illuminate this path of self-return. From the moment we arrive in this world, we are given names, labels, and expectations. Before we even learn to walk, the path is already being laid out for us, by family, by society, by tradition. We learn early what is praised and what is punished, what earns love and what invites rejection. Slowly, and often unconsciously, we begin to mold ourselves to fit these shapes. We become good sons, obedient daughters, ideal students, promising employees. And yet, in this molding, something essential is often lost. We begin to confuse the roles we play with the person we are. The lines blur between performance and authenticity. Over time, our identity becomes layered with masks, some so worn they feel like skin. But you are not your role. You are not the job title on your resume. You are not someone's partner, someone's parent, someone's trophy, someone's failure. Those may be chapters in your story, but they are not the author. You are a becoming, not a finished product, but a living process. Your true self lives behind the eyes that look out quietly in moments of solitude. It speaks in whispers, often drowned out by the noise of expectation. It shows itself in fleeting moments. The way you feel at peace while walking alone, the curiosity that sparks when you're reading something you love, the joy that rises when no one is watching. That is the real you, unpolished, perhaps. But real. Yet most people do not follow that voice. They are afraid. Afraid that if they stop performing, they will lose acceptance. Afraid that if they stop conforming, they will become invisible. So they trade themselves for belonging. They live lives of quiet compromise, and they call it adulthood. But inside, a deep ache persists, a hunger to return home to themselves. It's the feeling you get when everything looks perfect on the outside but feels hollow inside. It's the Sunday night dread, the restless scrolling, the forced laughter. All signs that you've been away from your true self for too long. The tragedy is not just that we lose ourselves, it's that we become so used to it, we no longer even notice. We wake up decades later and wonder, how did I become this person? But the truth is, it didn't happen all at once. It happened one small compromise at a time. The good news is that just as you drifted, you can also return. But to do so, you must be willing to face the discomfort of peeling away the layers. You must ask hard questions. What do I truly believe? What do I desire beyond what others told me I should? And you must sit with the silence long enough to hear the answers. You are never meant to live as an echo. You were born to be a voice. And the first step to reclaiming your life is to remember, you are not your roles. You are a self, unfolding, evolving, sacred. Focus there. Begin there. That is where the real life begins. In today's world, distraction is not just common, it is engineered. Every app, every screen, every notification is designed to hijack your attention. You may think you are in control, but most people are merely reacting. They pick up their phones instinctively, open apps without purpose, scroll without end. Time disappears. Energy drains. And at the end of the day, there is a strange sense of fatigue, not because of physical labor, but because of mental overstimulation. The truth is, distraction has become a lifestyle. But distraction from the world always starts as distraction from the self. We are terrified of sitting still. Silence feels unnatural. Yet in that stillness lies everything we truly need: clarity, direction, peace. When we avoid silence, we are not just avoiding boredom. We are avoiding truth. The uncomfortable truths about where we are wasting our time, who we are pretending to be, what we are afraid to face. And so we drown those truths in noise. In the morning, we reach for our phones before we even reach for a thought. Throughout the day, we stay constantly connected, but feel increasingly disconnected, not just from others, but from ourselves. A study once showed that participants would rather give themselves electric shocks than sit alone with their thoughts for just 15 minutes. That says more about our modern condition than any philosophy textbook ever could. We have trained ourselves to avoid inner confrontation, but there is a cost, because the mind, just like the body, cannot grow without challenge. When you allow yourself to be endlessly distracted, you never allow yourself to focus, not just on tasks, but on meaning. Focus is the gateway to depth. And depth is the only place where transformation happens. Think of your attention like sunlight. When it is scattered, it warms the surface. But when it is concentrated, it can ignite fire. That fire is purpose. It is insight. It is vision. Without it, we live on autopilot. We become consumers of content, of opinions, of habits, instead of creators of our own lives. That is why reclaiming your attention is not just a productivity tip. It is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration. My mind belongs to me. Real growth requires boredom. It requires empty space. It requires moments when you are not entertained, so your mind can wander, reflect, and reorganize itself. The greatest breakthroughs do not come when you're busy. They come when you are quiet enough to listen. If you constantly fill every gap with noise, you will never hear the quiet wisdom rising from within. Begin by observing how you spend your time. Track it. Become conscious of it. Notice the moments you reach for your phone when you feel something difficult, stress, sadness, doubt. Then pause. Breathe. Create a gap. In that gap, choose differently. Bit by bit, build the muscle of attention. You will find that the more you focus on what matters, the less appealing distraction becomes. And in that focus, you will rediscover your life. Pain is one of the most misunderstood aspects of human experience. Most people see it as an enemy, something to be avoided, suppressed, or escaped. But in truth, pain is not here to harm you. It is here to reveal you. Beneath every ache, every wound, every heartbroken moment lies a message. Pain speaks the language of the soul. It does not arrive randomly. It arrives with purpose. Yet we've built an entire culture around avoiding it. We numb ourselves with endless distractions, scrolling, shopping, eating, working, drinking, anything to avoid feeling the rawness of what hurts. But avoiding pain does not make it disappear. It simply buries it deeper. And what is buried begins to shape us from the shadows. It distorts how we see ourselves, how we trust others, how we live. Pain, when unexamined, becomes a silent architect of our fears and reactions. For example, someone rejected in childhood may grow into an adult terrified of intimacy. They may push people away to avoid being hurt again, never realizing that their loneliness is not fate, it's armor. And that armor was built by pain they never dared to touch. The paradox is that when we finally face our pain, not with resistance, but with curiosity, it softens. Pain becomes a teacher, a mirror, a compass. Think of the physical body. If your foot is bleeding, pain is what makes you look down and take care of it. Without pain, you wouldn't even notice the injury. The same applies to the emotional body. Pain draws your attention to where healing is needed, not as punishment, but as invitation. It asks, will you finally look at what you've been running from? There is an old story of a woman who spent years chasing relationships that left her broken. One day, after yet another painful ending, she stopped running and sat in silence. She began to ask herself what she was truly seeking in others. The answer stunned her. She was chasing validation that she never received as a child. It was in that painful realization that healing began. Not because the past changed, but because she did. Her pain, once denied, had become her guide back to wholeness. We must learn to treat our emotional wounds the way we treat physical ones, with care, with presence, and most of all, with patience. No healing is instant. No breakthrough is without discomfort. But every time you choose to feel instead of flee, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Pain does not make you weak. It makes you human. And facing it makes you strong. There is no life without pain. But there is a life beyond suffering. And the bridge between the two is awareness. When you stop fearing pain and start listening to it, it becomes less of a burden and more of a guide. That is where transformation begins. Not in the absence of struggle, but in your willingness to walk through it with open eyes and an open heart. One of the most powerful addictions in human life is not to substances or status, but to approval. The desire to be liked, accepted, and validated can quietly take over a person's existence. At first, it looks harmless, a smile to please someone, a choice to fit in, a small silence instead of speaking your truth. But over time, these tiny compromises add up. You start bending who you are to meet the expectations of others. You measure your worth by their reactions. You begin to live in a performance, clapping when others clap, laughing when you're supposed to, hiding your feelings to avoid discomfort. Without even realizing it, you trade authenticity for acceptance. This is not because you're weak. It's because approval is deeply tied to survival. As children, love often came with conditions. Approval was safety. Rejection felt like abandonment. So we learned to shape ourselves according to what was rewarded. We became what others wanted us to be, not what we truly were. And now, even as adults, that pattern continues. The moment someone disapproves, we panic. We edit ourselves. We chase validation, thinking that if enough people accept us, maybe we'll finally feel whole. But no amount of external approval can fill the space left by self-abandonment. When you live for applause, you become hollow. You're always waiting for someone to notice you, to reassure you, to tell you that you're enough. And in that waiting, your own voice fades. You lose the ability to make choices based on what you want, because you're too busy calculating what will keep others comfortable. And the tragic irony is that the more you chase approval, the more disconnected you become from your truth. There's a moment in many people's lives when the applause stops. Maybe a relationship ends. Maybe a job is lost. Maybe someone important no longer sees you the way you want to be seen. And suddenly, you're left in silence. It feels terrifying, but it's also the beginning of liberation. Because only in that silence do you begin to ask the question that truly matters. Who am I when no one is watching? The journey back to yourself requires courage. It means risking being misunderstood. It means choosing honesty over popularity. It means standing in rooms where your truth doesn't fit the narrative and staying anyway. You will lose people when you stop performing, but the ones who remain will see you clearly. More importantly, you will see yourself clearly. Approval is a drug, and withdrawal is painful. but freedom is worth it. Real peace doesn't come from being accepted by everyone. It comes from accepting yourself without needing permission. When you stop asking others to define your worth, you finally become the author of your own life. And in that space, even if it's quieter, even if fewer people clap, there is something priceless. Your integrity, your power, your soul. That is where your life begins to truly feel like your own. Time is not just something we measure by clocks and calendars. It is the purest expression of life itself. Every second that passes is not just time slipping away, but a piece of your soul being spent. Most people speak of time as if it's infinite, acting as though they'll always have more chances, more days, more years. But deep down, we all know the truth. Time is the one thing we can never get back. It is our most valuable, most limited resource. And yet, paradoxically, it's the one we waste the most. We give it away too easily, to people who drain us, to distractions that numb us, to routines that don't grow us. We convince ourselves that we're just passing time, waiting for the right moment to begin living fully. And in that waiting, our life quietly slips away. Imagine for a moment that someone handed you a fixed amount of money and said, "This is all you'll ever get. Spend it wisely." You'd be careful. You'd plan. You'd invest in what matters. You wouldn't throw it away on meaningless things. Yet with time, we rarely show the same caution. We act as though there will always be more days to chase that dream, more hours to spend with the people we love, more years to figure ourselves out. But for many, the realization comes too late. It comes in a hospital room, or in the final years of a job they hated, or in the silence after someone they loved is no longer there. It comes with a question: where did it all go? Living without awareness of time is like sailing without a compass. You may move, but you're not moving with purpose. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly years have passed, and you wonder why you feel unfulfilled. The truth is, your time has been invested in things that never aligned with your deeper self. You've been living someone else's priorities, not your own. And every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter to you, you are, by default, saying no to something that does. But there is another way. You can choose to become conscious of your time. You can begin to treat every hour as a sacred opportunity, a chance to create, to connect, to become more aligned with the life you truly want. You don't need to overhaul everything overnight. You begin with awareness. Start by asking yourself, what did I truly do with the last 24 hours? Who did I give my energy to? Was it worth it? What would I do differently tomorrow? When you begin to honor time, life begins to open. Priorities become clearer. Distractions lose their grip. You start investing in things that return something meaningful. Growth, depth, presence, peace. And slowly, your life begins to reflect the person you're becoming, not the one you've been pretending to be. You get one life, one timeline. Every day is a chapter, every hour a sentence, every moment a word. Make them count. Not someday, but now. Because time is not just what passes. It's what you are. Spend it wisely. Spend it well.